What are some real but crazy facts that could save your life? If you ever have to rescue a drowning person, throw them swimming to grab onto beside yourself. As a child, maybe 7 years old, I encountered my 4-year-old brother drowning in our pool after the maintenance guys left the fence open. I jumped in and grabbed my brother, who proceeded to try and drown me to get above water. I walked along the bottom holding my breath with him on my shoulders until the edge. I didn't think about it too much until I had kids of my own. I relive it in nightmares. I have pretty severe anxiety about my kids around water. I die in those dreams rescuing them a lot. I feel like I learned some of those dangers the hard way, but not the hardest way. Someone else mentioned therapy, and as a vet who never talked to anyone for 7 years after getting out, it actually helps having a professional to talk to. I never wanted to put my mental burdens on friends or family, but there are PPL that are able to help with such things. And while it's hard to open up to a complete stranger, try not to be worried about what they will think about you. They will take you serious and treat you like a long-time friend. Best of luck to you, friend. Edit. Thank you for all the kind words and questions. I went to sleep shortly after writing this, not expecting all the replies. But to those actually looking to speak with someone, I had the benefit of reaching out to the VA and getting the long-needed help I needed. I honestly don't know how someone would go about find such resources, but I'm sure someone here is more knowledgeable. Regular appointments and medication are helping me control my PTSD and depression and anxiety. As for the nightmares or friend is suffering from, I was having reoccurring nightmares keeping me up at night and was prescribed Prozocin. It's helped keep them under control, and I have felt the difference in the amount of rest I'm getting. But everyone is different. Never feel alone in your struggles. Seeing the kind PPL and hearing the kind words makes even the most difficult days a bit easier to approach. If you get stabbed or impaled, leave the foreign object alone. Do not attempt to remove it. Yeah, it's horrible and it's freaking you out, but your odds of survival are much higher if you just leave it be. Medical professionals will remove it in an environment equipped to deal with it. Also worth noting, if you react in panic and remove the object, but then remember this fact, do not try to put the object back in. But what if they remember that and pull it back out, but then realize it's probably better left in and stab themselves again, etc. Imagine that headline: man commits suicide with mugger's knife. Do you really expect me to believe that the victim stabbed himself a further 36 times after you stabbed him once? Yes, Your Honor. If someone is trying to suffocate you with a pillow by pressing it down on your face, just rotate your head to the side and there will be a small air pocket for you to breathe. They'll probably still try to kill you afterwards, but at least you can survive for longer. I got into a heated debate with my dad at a family dinner once. He was saying how he could suffocate me by putting a plastic bag over my head, and I said no, I could easily get out of that. The man went and got a trash bag and put it around my head. My survival mod was to suck the bag into my mouth and chew up the bag the best I could. Totally worked. I don't know why, but this is kind of hilarious to me. Just the thought of them having to go get a new bag and you chew through it every time. If you're choking, don't get embarrassed. Don't go to the bathroom. Don't walk away from people. I've seen a couple people nearly die because they were panicking and walked away from the dinner tables and such while choking. Do the universal sign for choking with both your hands on your neck, and most people will get the message. I walked to the bathroom while choking once, slipped, fell, and got a concussion from the toilet seat. At least the food came out. Well, now we have two choices. Let's call a self-Heimlich plan B. You can hold a plastic bag around a willow tree branch with leaves and it will start condensating drinkable water in the bag. Any plant will do this. Does willow respire more than others? Any plant will work, but some plants will contaminate the water with other secretions as well, oils from the leaves and such. So it's a good idea to be careful about what plants you use this technique on. Willows would probably be a good choice in part because they tend to grow in wet areas. Said wet area may be underground or seasonal, so they likely have access to more water for respiration. Willows have a massive respiration rate that correlates to growth rate, one of a couple major factors. Put a lid on a flaming pan to smother it and remove from heat carefully. Never throw any liquid on it. Don't remove the lid for at least 5 minutes. Not throwing water on an oil fire should be common knowledge, but it isn't. There's also probably people that know this, but in the panic of the situation, the water KS fire monkey brain takes over. Same thing with a falling knife has no handle. Human brain in controlled situation. Yes, very wise. Human brain in uncontrolled situation. Thing fall. Thing should not fall. Stop thing from fall. If you crash into an electrical pole, immediately call 911, or your country's equivalent, and stay in the car. You could have downed an electrical wire, and the wire will still be live. Assume the entire area around your car is electrified. Only get out of the car if there's an immediate danger. such as a fire. When you exit the car, make sure both feet touch the ground at the same time, and only take small, shuffling steps, and make sure both feet are touching the ground at all times. There were 2 teenagers from my hometown that were electrocuted after an accident like this. Can you please explain why we need to put both feet on the ground at the same time? Edit. Thanks for all the explanations. Guys. Firefighter here. If you must leave the vehicle, immediate lift threat exists, jump and land evenly, then shuffle. The vehicle may be charged by a live wire down, and if you were to still be touching the vehicle when you place your feet on the ground, you're completing the circuit and it will travel to you then to the ground. Shuffling keeps you grounded, and electricity can cast a current a few feet from its source, hence why you may feel a buzzing when close to a source emitting significant electricity. Edit. Thanks for the love. I'm relatively new to the service, but we're trained on a wide variety of subjects. I distinctly remember this from academy training. Stay safe. The shuffling of the feet is because around high voltage the ground itself could have electric current in it. If you were to raise a foot to step, there is the chance that the electrical potential between your 2 steps are different, causing electricity to flow through one foot to the other through you. By taking short shuffled steps, it discharges built-up potential in shorter amounts, preventing dangerous electrocution. Just thought I'd elaborate on the shuffle. If you get bit by a wild animal, you must get the rabies vaccine. Rabies is not like a flu or mild inconvenience. It's one of the most lethal diseases on the planet. It has a near 100% fatality once the disease takes hold, and it's a horrible way to go. I still remember the part of leaflet for Varorab, vaccine against rabies. There was this part. Contraindications. None. Rabies always results in death. I had the pre-exposition doses and boosters only, so for these there might be contraindications. But I still think that the person who wrote that sentence had dark sense of humor. It's considered to be 100% deadly. Only like 5 people have ever survived rabies in human history, I think. Too tired to check for sources. If the ocean water suddenly recedes at the beach you're at, a tsunami is probably coming. Run. Don't look at the fish. Oh, a tsunami is coming. Looks at the fish. Edit. Darn 8K upvotes. Was not expecting that Thai guys. That's pretty much what happened at that tsunami in 2005, I think. The water receded and lots of tourists went out into the former surf picking shacks and stuff. When Tay wave came they were in a terrible position. Sri 2004, not 2K5. There was a British girl who just learned about tsunamis at school, so she was able to warn everyone around her and they escaped in time. Never work under a car on a jack. Always have it on jack stands or a lift. To add to this, never fully trust jack stands and put a tire under the car by the stand. This actually saved my life. I had the car up on stands with a tire underneath as well while I worked on the brakes. I was fully under the vehicle and the jack stand failed and the car dropped. Went down so fast I wasn't even sure what happened before I would have been crushed. Tire caught the vehicle and gave me just enough room to get out from under the car. This is absolutely great advice. 2 jack stands. The jack and the tire is my way. If all that fails, well, it was my time. If you end up having to survive in a forest, crickets or grasshoppers chirping is not annoying, it is your sign of safety. Crickets stop chirping when something big is moving close to them. I thought you were going to say if you end up having to survive in a forest, crickets or grasshoppers chirping is not annoying. They are a good snack. You can have food or safety, not both. Didn't even finish your sentence before I started drinking my own piss. I may have overreacted, but you kicked my survival mode in. If you find yourself stranded in a desert, ration sweat, not water. Of course don't drink all of your water in one go, but the rate at which you'll dehydrate and overheat if exerting yourself, e.g., walking, hiking too fast or climbing over obstacles in the heat of the day, will kill you much quicker. Many people are found dead with water, which is terrifying. I can't believe just how many people in the show I shouldn't be alive rest at night and march in the day in the desert. Madness. Edit because lots of responses. Yeah, there are dangers associated with walking in the dark. There could be trip hazards and dangerous wildlife, etc. With a lot of cloud cover, navigation could be impossible, at which point you would restrict travel to dusk and dawn. On a clear night, you actually have a better chance of navigating via the North Star or Southern Cross than you do in the day. Your eyes will serve you pretty well on starlight and moonlight, assuming you are indeed lost and aren't familiar with landmarks. All this assumes you don't have a map or compass. Classic candidate for I shouldn't be alive. Once the sun is very high it doesn't do a great job of telling you your bearing. But all this is tertiary to the first and second rule of getting found when lost. Tell someone where you are going, and stay put when you realize you are lost. If you're with a vehicle, stay with the vehicle. If you've walked off the trail, you might only be 200 meters from the trail when you realize. But if you aren't 100% sure about going in the right direction to find it again, You should stay put, otherwise in a few hours of stumbling the wrong way you might have walked out of the main search area. Well, the title checks out. It's a great show for teaching you what not to do. When caught in a rip at the beach, just swim slowly along the beach, parallel to the shore until you feel the pull ease up, then swim towards the shore. This works if the rip is carrying you away from shore. It won't work if you're caught in a longshore current. To generalize, if you're out swimming and get caught in a current, tread water or float long enough to figure out which way it's carrying you. Then swim at right angles to that direction until you get out. Not too long ago, my uncle was arriving at a secluded surf spot in southern Mexico. Just as he arrived, a frantic family were yelling for help as 2 of their family members got caught in rip, and they didn't know how to swim either. Luckily, my uncle swam out there with his long board and was able to get them back onto shore safely. Rip tides are no joke. Sorry, neighbor, you put a quarter in the jukebox. Now you get the song. Everyone needs to learn to swim. Yes, even people who are scared of water. Why? Because drowning is a major cause of accidental death, and a substantial proportion of people who fatally drown didn't intend to be in the water in the first place. If you're in England, check out Swim England's Learning to Swim page in the US. The Red Cross provides swimming lessons aimed at adults. So does the Canadian Red Cross in Deutschland bringt die DLRG Schwimmen bei. If you're not a strong swimmer, stay out of the water. Wear a life jacket. Swim only at posted beaches, and obey the signs and flags. The life you save may be your own. Edit, at the minimum. If you get in the water and get in trouble, float to live. If you drive after being awake for 24 hours, your response times are impaired, the equivalent of somebody just over the drink driving limit. Even just being really tired can be bad. When I was in college, I drove with a friend to go get dinner after a long, hot game day in the marching band. I was very out of shape and didn't sleep well, so I was exhausted. My friend remarked that I was driving like I was drunk and made me let him take over. Maybe not to save your own life, but it could help you save someone else's. When performing CPR, chest compressions need to be continuous, deep and fairly quick. Call for an ambulance first. If you can get someone to help you, do so, because it is exhausting. For an adult, good quality chest compressions should be 2 per second and 56 cms deep. You should lock your hands together, one on top of the other. Get your arms straight. Lock your elbows and push with the heel of your bottom hand into the middle of the chest. Hard, and you do not stop until help arrives. The rumor that chest compressions can crack ribs is true. But trust me, they'd rather have broken ribs than be dead. Most countries have deliberate clauses in assault and sexual assault laws that say that if you are injured due to emergency aid such as CPR, or feel that you have been violated in any way, you cannot press charges. So as long as what you are doing is keeping them alive, keep doing it. I took a CPR class here in US. They mentioned this. It's the Good Samaritan law. If you are trying to help someone, they can't press charges against you. Edit, as this is apparently state-driven. I was told this in GA. Also, it wasn't a CPR certification class, but this is how you perform CPR on different age groups for your general knowledge and not be certified type of class. Unless you are completely negligent in what you're doing. If you start CPR and that person dies and you did everything you could, you're fine. But if you start CPR not knowing what you're doing and you start compressions on their belly or swimming stupid lol, the Good Samaritan Act won't save you. Not too crazy, but if someone is acting drunk but didn't had any alcohol, ask them to smile. If one side of their mouth is down, take them to a doctor cause they are having or will have a stroke. They might also be diabetic and have a hypo. My brother has diabetes and I really need to know this. Thanks. Other symptoms are dizziness, excessive sweating and crankiness. Just so you know. If you need to check a pressurized line X, hydraulic line, never ever use your hand. Use a piece of cardboard or soapy water. If you use your hand to check, the pressure can cause the fluid to cut your skin, and liquids like hydraulic fluid will cause gangrene in a matter of hours. Go to the hospital immediately and get them to check you right away. Don't take no for an answer. It could mean the difference between keeping versus losing your limb. Edit, adding some reading that explains better than I could. Again, please use cardboard or soapy water to check. My dad was a pipe fitter on nuclear subs. He said that if there was ever a suspected pressure leak in the reactor compartment, they would wave a broomstick around in the area of the leak. You knew you found it when the end of the broomstick was sliced off and fell to the floor. Yep, I had to do that when I was in the Navy. We'd run a broomstick up and down piping in our reactor spaces. Luckily no leaks. A motorcycle helmet is stronger than a skull. On that note, don't wear sandals and ride. Dress for the slide, not for the ride. I tell my fiancé that all the time. Neither of us ride motorcycles. Point at someone and delegate. People freeze up in emergencies or assume someone else will handle a problem. Point at someone as say you guy in the blue shirt. Go to the gate and tell the ambulance where we are. Ma'am, please go with him. Don't ask does anyone know CPR. Point at someone and ask if they do. Even if they don't, people are more likely to step forward in fear of being asked next and judged for not acting sooner than volunteering from the beginning. You call 911, you go get the AED located by the main office while pointing and also pointing out things like you said, blue shirt, etc. Drilled in my head from many years of CPR first aid training. You should also include a possible description of an AED. I know it has AED written on it, but you'd be surprised how many will overlook that. Drink vodka if you get antifreeze in your system. I went to an animal CPR and emergency class, taught by an old army veterinarian. He said back in the day when they brought a dog in that consumed antifreeze, they'd send a guy to the liquor store. Everybody would take a shot of the vodka because it was about to be a long night. Then they'd get the dog drunk as heck, bordering on alcohol poisoning. If the body is busy filtering the vodka, it can't filter the antifreeze and it'll just pass through the system. It's when the body tries to process the antifreeze that makes you die because it forms crystals in the kidney, liver or something. So you have to distract the body away from the antifreeze till it passes. A lot of vet clinics keep vodka in stock for this exact reason. I've given it 4 before. Is antifreeze that tasty? Be aware of potential energy. Heavy weight overhead, highly tensioned wires and springs. Momentum. Things break and now you're on 1,000 ways to die. For a long time one of my biggest fears was getting sliced in half by a cable that snapped. Like in the beginning of Ghost Ship. Edit, I was 9 at the time. Bro, I think about that movie too much. I was pretty young when I first saw it too and it definitely left an impression. Never try to fix a microwave. Yep, even when unplugged they can hold enough of a current to K you for up to a few days. They only K you for a few days? When you come back to life, do you remember what happened? Better yet, you'll get superpowers and have the ability to microwave anything in your hands. If someone odds, don't wait to discuss or figure out if they will get in trouble. Every minute counts, and if staff ask if they took anything, tell them immediately. Tests will reveal it anyway, but every minute they have to run them is another minute they can't treat the patient correctly. Do not hesitate to call emergency services for a suspected overdose, as quick and treatment and response is imperative. They're not the police. They're not out to get anyone in trouble, and if it messes with something like their doctor's prescriptions, it's preferable to leaving them to die. If you do any kind of opiates or have people at your house who do often, have naloxone handy and know how to administer it. Also, don't lie to those of us who work in the ER. We aren't the cops. We can't give your medical information to law enforcement without your consent or a warrant. Even in that case the hospital will use their lawyer. And we want to know what we are dealing with. Lying to your anesthesiologist could be the difference between life and death. Car jacks are for lifting, not holding. So if true, the amount of people that go under their cars while it's on a jack is astounding. Jack stands aren't even that expensive. There is no excuse to not have them. This answered the question I was about to ask. Thank you, and the original advice giver. Didn't realize this. You can get a good pair of jack stands for $3,040. They will most likely last you your entire life. I have 4 so I can keep my car entirely in the air. I also like to leave my jack up against the car on a strong spot, not carrying weight, but just as an added safety. Once clinical symptoms appear in a rabies victim, it is 100% fatal. If you're bit by a wild animal, seek medical attention immediately. Or even if you think you might been. Bats can pierce skin without the victim showing any bite marks. Exactly. If you ever wake up and find a bat in your room house, go get rabies shots immediately. At age 11 I got bitten by a bat I helped save from some younger kids at school. I forgot and left it a couple of days before saying anything to my parents. I've never seen them react so fast. We were in a hospital getting me rabies vaccinations within an hour. 2-month-long rabies treatments are not fun. Avoid contact with all wild animals unless you're a trained professional. They're unpredictable and likely more scared of you than you are of them. A moose in the rut is more dangerous than a bear. Do not approach. Moose versus truck, everyone loses. Here's a video of what not to do when you see a moose in the wild. This video made me so mad. That poor moose was just minding its business. And the adults in the area were not only being stupid and stressing it out, but endangering children at the same time. I'd why this one is missing. When you see someone faint, don't help him staying up. Gently catch and lay down ASAP. They're fainting because brain needs blood to stay alive. Keeping them upright will prevent this. If you feel lightheaded, Lay down so that no dumbass will try to keep you on your feet. If you suffer from any condition that causes fainting, explain this to people around you. If you don't know the person, it's a good idea to keep their head supported by swimming soft lest that faint becomes a seizure. Had a friend faint on me once only to begin flailing. When I faint I need to be completely flat. Even better if my lower half is higher than my upper half. Lifting my head even on a lap on the floor will cause me to seize because the blood isn't getting back fast enough. So long ramble to say I agree. But swimming like a towel and nothing more.